Demonstrators in Paris have launched fireworks, thrown stones and put up barricades in confrontations with police. They're angry at a draft law that's seen as curbing the right of journalists to report on police brutality. Iran has vowed to retaliate in its own time for the assassination of its top nuclear scientist. President Hassan Rouhani has blamed Israel for the killing of Mohsen Fakhrizadeh. Ethiopia's prime minister has claimed his forces have taken control of the capital of the rebel Tigray province, Mekelle. That's after a period of heavy bombardment. There are fears for refugees fleeing to Sudan. The Archbishop of Washington, D.C. has been made the first African-American cardinal in the Catholic Church. Wilton Gregory was confirmed by the Pope at a ceremony in the Vatican. The Archbishop is known for his outspokenness on many issues, including sex abuse scandals.
President Trump told reporters that he will leave the White House if the Electoral College elects Joe Biden, though Trump also said the Electoral College would be making a mistake if it did so. Trump continues to allege widespread fraud in the election without significant evidence. The Supreme Court blocked New York State from imposing restrictions on religious services to fight the spread of the coronavirus. New Justice Amy Coney Barrett cast the pivotal vote in the 5-4 decision, making a departure from past cases that deferred to state authorities. The governor said the ruling had no effect on the state's virus control efforts, and it concerned an area no longer under such restrictions. Disney plans to lay off an additional 4,000 employees, totaling 32,000 by March, mostly affecting the company's theme park business, which has been disrupted by the pandemic. Thousands of workers were already furloughed or laid off this year. Today is Black Friday, but bargain hunters might find in-store discounts more scarce as retailers contend with smaller inventories after the pandemic led to order cancellations earlier in the year. Despite the health crisis, the National Retail Federation is projecting sales to rise this holiday season to as much as $766.7 billion.
We start here in Japan, where 2,684 coronavirus cases were confirmed on Saturday. That figure, together with the 440 people who are in serious condition, marked new records. Of the total number of new cases, 561 were in the capital. The tally was the second highest in the metropolis after the 570 recorded the day before. Metropolitan officials say the number of people in serious condition stands at 67. The figure marked the highest since a nationwide state of emergency was lifted in late May. Tokyo Governor Koike Yuriko visited 4 medical institutions that have been accepting patients amid the rapid rise in infections. She says a common challenge at medical institutions is securing qualified staff.
The Tokyo metropolitan government wants to consider what can be done to support them. But I think Tokyo will have to seek assistance from the central government.
Tokyo officials have asked establishments that serve alcohol to shut early starting Saturday until the middle of December in order to reduce the places where people gather. This comes as a huge blow to bars and restaurants that have already been hit hard by the pandemic. The Japanese government is also moving to scale back its popular domestic tourism campaign. Earlier this week, inbound travel to the cities of Osaka and Sapporo was excluded from the Go To Travel subsidy campaign. On Saturday, the central government began asking people in the two cities to refrain from using the program to travel as well. This travel agency in Osaka has been kept busy dealing with the fallout. It has already received 4 cancellations on Saturday alone.
The year-end and New Year holidays are one of the busiest seasons for travel agencies. If this continues, it will present major problems for our company.
More than 146,000 people across Japan have been infected since the outbreak began. Over 2,100 people have died. The governor of Tokyo says she will think about how the central government's Go To Travel tourism campaign should be handled in light of the increasing number of coronavirus cases.
We have sent inquiries to relevant ministries and agencies about the campaign's temporary suspension. I will consider what to do after I receive responses.
Koike Yuriko has maintained the Tokyo government cannot ask the central government to temporarily suspend the campaign in the capital. She told reporters Friday that a suspension of the campaign should involve travel to and from the city. She says that's why the central government should make the ultimate decision. Cancer patients in Japan have asked the government to make sure they can get the care they need amid the coronavirus pandemic. The Japan Federation of Cancer Patient Groups sent a letter to government authorities. It says treatments for cancer patients may be canceled or suspended if the pandemic continues to put a strain on the healthcare system. It adds that could cause the health of some patients to severely deteriorate. The Federation is urging the government to immediately establish a system to ensure cancer patients can receive necessary treatments and medical checks. The Federation is also asking the government to forego transferring cancer patients to other hospitals when it wants to secure beds for COVID-19 patients. Amano Shinsuke is the head of the Federation. He says medical workers have indicated the situation they are facing has been getting tougher since last week.
If this situation continues, patients with life-threatening diseases, including cancer patients, will not be able to receive the medical care that they need.
Amano says he wants the government to act quickly to protect health care in the country. Railways, buses, and taxis are often seen as a front line in the battle against COVID. Now, Japan's government says it will help public transport operators cover the cost of new measures to fight the virus. This comes as transport companies struggle with plunging passenger numbers as more people work from home in the face of the pandemic. The government plans to subsidize antivirus steps such as high-performance air purifiers for taxis and buses. It will also help with the cost of bringing in cashless payment systems. Spending for the subsidy program will be included in a third supplementary budget for fiscal 2020 due to be compiled next month. Ethiopia's military is advancing toward the capital of the northern Tigray region in its operations against forces of the ethnic minority regional government. Fighting has continued since Tigrayan forces attacked a central government military base on November 4th. Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed, the 2019 Nobel Peace Prize laureate, says the law enforcement campaign has reached its final stage. Details are unknown as the internet and other means of communication in the region have been cut off. Reuters news agency quotes a senior military official as saying government forces had seized several towns in the region by Friday and were advancing on the regional capital, Mekelle. The African Union sent an envoy who met the Prime Minister on Friday, but Abiy said he intends to continue the military operation. More than 40,000 refugees have fled to neighboring Sudan, aggravating a humanitarian crisis. Concerns over civilian casualties are mounting as fighting approaches Mekelle, which is home to 500,000 people. Shifting to digital technology is a top priority for Japan's government, but NHK has learned that only about 1% of political organizations have used an online system to report their revenue and expenses over the last 2 years. The Internal Affairs Ministry has spent about $20 million developing and maintaining the system it launched 10 years ago. It will cost another $580,000 a year to keep it running. The idea is that reports can be submitted without having to make visits in person, saving time and streamlining work. But old habits die hard for some officials.
Our office has always filed our reports on paper. We've just kept on doing that out of long-standing habit. I didn't know there was an online option. I would like to make the switch if that's what's recommended.
An expert in information and communications policies says politicians should play their part as the government pushes online.
Politicians themselves should use the system and try to fix it if it's not user-friendly. They need to push ahead with the digitalization of documents and money management to ease the administrative burden.
Shoji says digitalization will also help improve political transparency.